Ladies and gentlemen, I want to share with you a story from the past, history, her story, our story, a story about Charlotte Despard. Charlotte Despard was a wealthy, upper-class Victorian widow who in 1895, at the grand old age of 50, left her comfortable home in Esher, Surrey, and moved to one of the poorest districts in London, 9 Elms, near Battersea. She made her home there, in a little terraced house, hemmed in between the railway lines, amidst the noise from the gasworks and the candle factory, surrounded by the smell from the brewery, and with the constant tang of coal dust in the air from the steam trains. Why? Why did Charlotte Despard move there? Because Charlotte Despard wanted to make a difference to the lives of the people she had begun to care about. She cared about the mothers and babies, so she set up a health clinic in her front room. She cared about the hungry children, so she arranged for them to have hot school dinners. She cared about the young lads on the street, so she arranged for them to have a space where they could meet and be secure. But that wasn't all. It was the workhouses that bothered Charlotte Despard the most. She had visited the women and the children in the workhouses, and she was appalled by the conditions which she found there. Their food was disgusting, the smell was rank, and the supervisors were big, fat bullies. Charlotte Despard was outraged. She complained to the Guardians, but her complaints were ignored. She was 52 years old. She didn't turn a blind eye. She didn't behave like a typical 19th century widow and move on to another good cause. Instead, Charlotte Despard roared like a lion. She shook the board by the scruff of its neck. She challenged the status quo. She forced those men to listen. Charlotte Despard made a stand, and the conditions in the workhouses were improved. But that wasn't all. In 1906, she was struck by the injustice of the system where women who paid their taxes had no right to vote. And so, Charlotte Despard had passion. She had guts. She had attitude. So she committed herself to the campaign for universal suffrage. Who marched with Millicent Fawcett? Charlotte Despard. Who plotted with the Pankhursts? Charlotte Despard. Who rallied the crowds in Trafalgar Square? Charlotte Despard. And for her beliefs, at the age of 64, she was thrown into Holloway prison twice. In 1918, the vote was given to women over the age of 30. And 10 years later, in 1928, the vote was given to all women over the age of 21. Mission accomplished. So what did Charlotte Despard do then? What did 77-year-old Charlotte Despard do then? Did she hang up her banner and retire from public life? Oh no. Did she sit back in her chair and put up her feet? Oh no. Did she settle by the fire and take up her knitting? Oh no. Charlotte Despard continued to fight for what she believed in. Right up until her death, at the age of 95, she continued to support the disadvantaged, the underprivileged, and the disenfranchised. Why? Because Charlotte Despard had a vision. She dreamt of a society based on equality and justice, a society based on respect for all. Even into her old age, Charlotte Despard channeled all her energies into making this vision a reality. In her 70s, she moved to Ireland to support the struggle for independence. In her late 80s, she visited Soviet Russia to study communism firsthand. And in her 90s, she would have gone to Spain to fight against Franco's fascist regime had she not been too frail to travel. So what is the relevance of Charlotte Despard's story to today? To you, and to me. Charlotte Despard is an example of the spirit of activism. She's an example of someone who refused to be silenced. She is an example of someone who spoke up for those with no voice. Charlotte Despard fought for truth, for freedom, and for justice. She started her work in her 50s. She continued to work through her 60s, 70s, 80s, and into her 90s, taking risks and putting herself out there. Charlotte Despard was a woman with courage, with conviction, and with integrity. Charlotte Despard shows us that age doesn't matter. Charlotte Despard shows us that it's never too late. Charlotte Despard shows us that it's never too late to make a difference.